Game Time Astrology Podcast, the first ever sports astrology podcast. You heard it here first. It's your girl, LaRae, and we are going to tap into this very unique and amazing and very important concept that I created for specifically for high school athletes and their parents that are coming out of college, that are being highly recruited through Division I, Division II, Division III schools, so that they can choose the best schools for them based on their location. So AstroSportsOgraphy, all right? You heard it here first. If anyone else tries to steal it, it is trademarked, okay? But you heard it here first. So as you can see in the title, this is where athletic performance meets location, all right? Now, the reason why I created this science, and I've been working on it for quite some time and decided to unveil it here in the amazing 2026. I decided to create this because I myself, I'll give you some background about me. I played Division I basketball at West Virginia University, and then I later transferred to the University of Rhode Island. I had been playing basketball since I was 7 years old, and I was highly recruited out of high school, highly recruited from Division I schools. I went to the Adidas camp for the top women's basketball players in the entire nation in the United States. I was ranked the number 10th point guard in my class in my senior year and was ranked in the top 50 of women's high school basketball players in high school going into college. So I had offers from multiple Division I schools like Purdue, Maryland, Temple, of course, the schools that I went to, West Virginia, University of Rhode Island, Tulane, Baylor, Pittsburgh, UPenn. I mean, all kinds of offers. I remember I had the Jordans. I think they're the Jordan 16s that came with the suitcase. It was those Jordans that came with the suitcase, right? So I had two pairs of those. I had the blue ones and I had the red ones. And in both of those suitcases that the shoes came in, I had two suitcases full of letters from Division I colleges. I can't even remember all of the colleges that I got letters from. I just can't remember. I can't even tell you. Oh yeah, and Xavier. Xavier was one too that I remember that they used to send me a lot of letters. And at the time, 17 years old, I just didn't know where to go. I didn't know what school to pick. It was a very overwhelming process for me. And then, of course, my mom, who is, she's not an athlete, she didn't know how to navigate it either. And lo and behold, I ended up choosing West Virginia University. Well, it wasn't really my choice. It was my family's choice at the time, unfortunately. I wanted to go to Temple, but I ended up going to West Virginia University, and then things didn't transpire well there. And so I ended up transferring to the University of Rhode Island, playing there and graduating there. But again, my first choice was Temple University. So when I went back and looked at the astrocartography chart, because astrosportsography is derived by, or I should say derived from, astrocartography, which is a sector of astrology that was invented by an astrologer by the name of Jim Lewis back in the 1970s. So I decided to create this sector of astrology for athletes. Because when I went and looked back at the energy in West Virginia and the energy in Rhode Island, when I went back and looked at the astrocartography chart and the relocated chart of those two places, I noticed that they were not good choices for me when it came to my basketball career. So anytime someone asks me about, hey Q, wow, you're so good. Why didn't you play pro? XYZ. I mean, I've gotten asked that so many times because I am really good. I play every week. So that was the reason why, because I chose the wrong school. Like the places that I went to energetically were not aligned with my goal of becoming a professional athlete. They were actually blockishes. Okay. They severely blocked me in so many ways. And so when I started sports astrology, right, I had this idea to combine astrocartography with sports, because again, astrocartography is one of my most popular services and has been for many, many years. And so I decided to interpret the planetary influences, the power lines, into more of a sports related context, and AstroSportsOgraphy has been born. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through each and every power line or planet and what it represents in an AstroSportsOgraphy context. So these definitions and descriptions are not going to be the regular old astrocartography talking points. No, I have literally created this system to help parents and athletes alike that have multiple offers, like I had way back then, to choose the correct college for them, so that if they do have aspirations of playing professionally, they will not be stunted or decrease their chances of actually making that dream into reality. Because let's face it, when it comes to college athletics, that is the make or break for professionals, okay? If you go to the wrong school and you get caught up in politics, like I was, politics that were against me, adversity, and all those things that I was not prepared to handle, because the energy of those states were not aligned with me at all, then that can create many, many hiccups. So we don't want that for our athletes. We don't want that for our athletes coming up. I mean, I know I don't. I never want anyone to experience what I experienced playing college basketball. So I've created this system, and we're going to go through each and every planet. All right, so let's go ahead now to what is AstroSportsOgraphy. So AstroSportsOgraphy is the revolutionary fusion that I've created of sports performance and astrocartography. It is a system revealing how planetary energy from your birth chart impacts athletic success, injuries, endurance, and career longevity. Think of it as your hidden sports map, pinpointing where your talent shines, where you train hardest, and where caution is required. Now, when I did my first episode of Zion Williamson, I did do a little bit of astrosportsography with that reading. I did incorporate that, but at the time, of course, it wasn't created at that time. It was my very first episode, and I actually talked about Zion Williamson and why he's not performing well, both on the court and off the court in New Orleans, because I had saw, in his chart, there's a Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, and New Orleans is actually his Jupiter and Saturn line. And we'll get to Saturn in a minute. As you can see here, there are injury risks. And as we know, Zion Williamson, since being drafted to the New Orleans Pelicans, he has had several injuries. He's played less games throughout his 7-year career. He's always injured. He's always sitting out. And this is the reason why, because he's on the Saturn line. And then the Jupiter line is also in New Orleans for him. And as we can see, there was luck. He was the number 1 draft pick in his class, right? And that's very lucky. And there was a lot of magnetism from New Orleans that ultimately transpired in him being chosen for that team. So I like to look at that Jupiter line as the reason why he was drafted number 1, of course, and his talent too. But all of these things come into play. I also talked about LeBron James and his episode about his astrosportsography, and if he was to be traded, where he could shine, and if he was be traded to Dallas, which was like some rumors that were happening in the summer, what could potentially happen. So now when I do episodes, I will just use my terminology here of astrosportsography to make a case on why I see trades and why players are playing the way that they play versus in other areas, what that looks like and why, using this astrosportsography system. So let's go ahead and move now to the power planets for athletic success. As you can see, I grouped them all into different categories. And we're going to start with the power planets for athletic success, which are the Sun, Jupiter, Mars, Venus, and the North Node. So the Sun, when an athlete is playing on the Sun line, this is where they will gain star player aura, leadership, and MVP potential. When a player is playing on the Jupiter line, they will be lucky, lucky in scholarship, lucky in expansion, and have a tremendous scout magnetism. When a player is playing on their Mars line, this is beast mode energy because Mars, Aries is about competition, stamina, aggression, and training dominance. When a player is playing on their Venus line, this can attract fan appeal, endorsements, recovery, and a lot of team harmony. When a player is playing on their North Node, or aka their Moon's nodes line, and of course the South Node we have to also take into consideration because in astrocartography we deal with the Moon's nose line, which incorporates both the North and the South Node points. So if a player is on their North Node line, this is the destiny zone where skills evolve rapidly. Moving on now to the challenging planets, where athletes need to train and play with awareness. We start with Saturn. Saturn, when an athlete plays on the Saturn line, there could be hard lessons, delayed success, and injury risk. Like I said with Zion Williamson, delayed success, right? Because in New Orleans, this is his Saturn line, okay? He's playing on his Saturn line. So he's been in the league for 7 years, and we do see collectively that his success has been delayed because he's been riddled with injury and hard lessons off the court with his personal life. Moving on to Neptune, when a player is playing on the Neptune line, this could create confusion, unclear roles, and miscommunication. So I want to actually point out my experience with this. In the University of Rhode Island, that was my Neptune conjunct ascendant line. And I did experience confusion and unclear role, like I wasn't sure what my role was, miscommunication, just I'll break it down. So confusion, right? Confusion and kind of like being I want to say too, playing on the Neptune line, I felt hidden. I felt like my talents were hidden. I felt like I was hidden because it's 12th house, Neptune, Pisces. 12th house is the house of hidden enemies or hidden things, spirituality, solitude. So I definitely felt very secluded at URI. Honestly speaking, I felt not a part of the team when it came to confusion, just very confused as to why things were happening there. Like I was one of the best players on the team, but there were a lot of things that were transpiring that confused me as to even like the plays, learning the offensive plays. I would be struggling with that. I struggle with learning the plays at URI. And, I've been playing basketball for years. At that point, I never had any confusion with plays or how to run them. But I recall a couple times during practice where even my teammates would try to like walk me through the play and like the correct time to cut to the basket or, all kinds of stuff. I'm telling you. So that's where the confusion lied for me. And when it came to miscommunication, there was miscommunication between my coach and I. And just anything that was happening in my personal life also trickled down to my basketball career there. And it was very confusing. And it put me in a place of seclusion where I, just felt like alone and I didn't really have any allies. And it was just really, really a trying time. So Neptune, not a great line for sports. It's more so better for like artists, musicians, actors, spiritual mothers and fathers, shamans, stuff like that. Another challenging planet, if a athlete plays on the Chiron line, then there could be wounds that transform into signature strengths. Okay, so it's like healing that wound that can transform into a strength. Like let's say you have Chiron and Gemini, and you're playing on your Chiron line. It could be about how you communicate with your team or just in general, being a leader, stepping up, speaking out, speaking up, those kinds of things. That's just an example. Another challenging planet, we see the South Node here, so that's a part of the Moon's nodes. If an athlete is to play on the Moon's nose line, not only will it be a destiny zone, but it could also show up as a comfort zone that limits a player's growth. So that's where the athlete needs to be mindful to continue to, you know, train hard. If you know, your intuition is saying to train hard, go to the gym, play a couple times a day, you know, get in the gym 2 hours, 4 hours a day, do 2 a days, then the athlete should do that instead of relying on their comfort zone and not working on their weaker skills and stuff like that. Now, moving on to the wild card planetary energies, if an athlete is to play on their Pluto line, this could create extreme pressure that forges elite veterans, or I want to also say legends as well. Okay. Very, very powerful, powerful place. Now, I actually played on my Pluto line. Well, I didn't really play there. I just kind of had a career there where I did a bunch of fitness related commercials and shoots and stuff like that on my Pluto line. And it definitely, it wasn't bad pressure because it was a Pluto sextile midheaven line, but it definitely forged me into like an elite type of player where, you know, I kept getting the question of, you know, did you play pro? Like, you should play pro, you know, like people urging me to play pro and all these things. And, you know, booking all of this like fitness work and basketball work and stuff like that. So it was really, really cool. Definitely a wild card energy for sure, because I wasn't expecting that. But it definitely made me want to work on my game and play all the time. And that's what I did on my Pluto line. If an athlete is playing on their Uranus line, then this is the X factor energy and can cause unpredictable breakthroughs like winning awards and, you know, just kind of being like the sixth man off the bench that is killing it and just really making waves and making a name for themselves. Uranus energy can really solidify that and make that something real. And then we go to the moon line. Okay, so the moon line, if a player is playing on their moon line, this is where emotions are behind clutch performances, emotional engine behind clutch performances. Maybe a player feels like, you know, intuitively they should play the player to their left hand because their left hand isn't strong, right? Or play the player to the right because the right hand isn't strong, or, um, you know, or just emotionally, you know, you want to win a championship. So you're going to give it your all. You're really going to like leave it all out there on the floor. And then, you know, you hit the game winning shot. And then next thing you know, you're on the news with the championship trophy in your hand and you're crying and you're thanking your mom and you're thanking God. You know, this is the moon line in AstroSportsOgraphy that can really create this kind of energy. All right. Now, as you know, as you can see, I left out a couple placements on purpose because this is a new science subsector of astrology that I've created. So I didn't want to put everything out there, but I will have a book coming out later on in the year, which will have all of the planets visible here that you do not see. Okay, there's a couple missing here. But I will have that stuff up and you will be able to see it and check it out. But right now I just have a couple things just on this video just for you guys to get like a little taste of what AstroSportsOgraphy is. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please sure to like, subscribe, share. Check out the description box for a reading. You can get an AstroSportsOgraphy reading from me. Just click astrocartography on the website, QLaRae.co/astrology, and just let me know in the notes if you do book it that you want an AstroSportsOgraphy reading for your kid or for yourself if you're an athlete in high school and you are heavily recruited and you're not sure which school to pick and you want to make sure if you have chosen a school and you want to make sure that's the right school, then check out my website. Just tap astrocartography and just let me know in the notes that you want an AstroSportsOgraphy reading. Until next time, guys, peace.